right. Please.
Sit down.
Welcome back to.
Thank you.
Welcome back to our final session, final official session. Todd and Brett will talk a little bit at the end, but this was going to be the first time that the four founders were on stage at Altitude together in the history of the company, ironically, I think.
That's great.
But and then Artur unfortunately got sick, so he sends his regards, and he'll see you next time. But anyway, we have Simon Wistow, who's our head of VP of Special Initiatives, Strategic Initiatives. Sorry, Jason. Yes, it is. Right. Good, even better. Jason Cook, Distinguished Engineer. Tyler McMullen, who's CTO. Did I get it right?
Yeah.
Yes, I did. Good.
Close enough.
And so we're going to talk a little bit about what Fastly was built to do. And if we've got any time for floor questions at the end, maybe we could do that. Good. So without further ado, guys, what are you most proud of in terms of what Fastly has achieved?
I can start.
Great, do it.
As we look at each other awkwardly, you can tell we're nerds, not public
Bunch of
speakers.
introverts.
I mean, there was a bunch of stuff, like you can look at the IPO, I mean, look at the fact that we got a customer conference, but like, weirdly for me, not weirdly, but like for me, it's the people. Like, you know, so we do like a significant proportion of all web traffic in the world. And so we need like world-class people, and they can go work anywhere. Like, and you know, unlike Google, we don't give like hot and cold running massages and like 6 meals a day and like do your laundry for you. So like, we have to get people, like, there's got to be a reason the fact that people come and work for us, and the fact that I think we're good people, like that makes me really, really proud. And I kind of related to that. We have so many people who kind of leave and go somewhere else and then come back. We actually have a name for it. We call them boomerangs. And like the fact that we have so many people who want to come back and work for us means we must be doing something right. Like that. So that, I think that's the thing that makes me proud. Like we've got a company that people want to come and work at.
Yeah. Jason.
I've been a big believer in that we've been able to allow people to build things they couldn't build before. To bring a ability to bring your vision to scale. One of the early customers that we onboarded in an emergency was this the Mavericks surf event, which is interesting. It's a surf competition, it happens, but the actual infrastructure behind it was a $10 WordPress instance and us. Spun up in a few days. That was it. It allowed them to just do their event, do their thing, and not actually have to think about the technology behind it, interact with their customers, and just know it was going to work. And allowing more people to do that is really exciting to me.
Yeah. I was actually going to say something similar, but I'll say that I think for me, a lot of it is how we have changed the industry as a whole. Like, for those of you who have been around for a while, you might remember what CDNs and edge networks were like back prior to 2011, and like I worked with those companies and I worked with those platforms, and like it was extremely frustrating for me, which is much of the reason why Fastly got built, right? But also changing the industry in terms of like the way we even talk about things, like the way we talk about the edge these days is quite a bit different than the way we talked about it a number of years ago, and it's gotten a lot more subtle. It's gotten a lot more, I think, like technically correct as well. And I guess finally, I would say, like, I think that I've been really proud of the fact that we've been able to live up to our mission of like making the internet a better place where all experiences are fast, safe, and engaging. You know.
Great. And we've talked a lot about the new technology at this event and some of the new initiatives. What do you think is the most exciting thing that's on the roster? Because there's quite a lot. I mean, we've talked about so many different things. What's most exciting to you?
You're really gonna make me choose among all of my children?
We all secretly have a favorite. Come on.
I mean, like a lot of what my team does is work on, and I mean, frankly, it's a lot of what engineering as a whole at Fastly does is work on like new initiatives and new ideas. For me, I think there's a couple of them. You all saw Lynn's video earlier talking about the component model. That one, I think, is like an underappreciated thing that is going to be a really, really big deal, not just at Fastly, but like across a lot of the industry in the near future. And when I say industry in this sense, I don't even mean just the edge, right? Like I happen to know of other platforms being built with that are not just the edge and that are like, very widely diverse. So. But just the fact that it allows you to like go like, all right, let me link together two programs written in two totally separate languages. That's a thing you've never been able to do before. Like in the entire history of computing, making just a straight up simple function call from like JavaScript to Rust, like that's just, it was impossible before, right? I think that combined with like, with the AI things that we're starting to work on. Like I'm not one for buzzwords, but I don't know, AI is a lot of what, like I read a lot of the MIT AI books published in the 1970s when I was a kid, and so like seeing this stuff actually become useful is really exciting to me, and like being able to play a role in that is really exciting.
Cool. Simon, Jason?
I was going to, I've got a bunch as well. Like, again, it's like alerting, like a bunch of the observability stuff, like Fastly Anywhere. I don't know if you've heard about that, but Fastly Anywhere is you're going to be able to deploy the Fastly stack to anywhere. And that's like, I'm really, it's one of the first good names we've actually come up with. I don't know if any of you know our internal code names, but they're notoriously terrible.
I mean, to be clear, it's not even the official name, though.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, it's a good name. But like, Fastly Anywhere, I think is going to be really, really exciting. I think, especially since as we've got more and more different types of customers, we found that they needed more and more different ways of deploying stuff. We're trying to meet our customers where they are rather than trying to force them to come to us. I think it fits in with the Fastly philosophy of like, we're part of your infrastructure and we're not forcing you to be part of ours. Like, I don't know, did I just step on your toes, Jason?
No, I tend to look at more the not customer focus. I look at infrastructure, and for me, Fastly Anywhere is exciting because it's rebuilding the artifacts that we look at as saying we traditionally have these bare metal machines that we have all a very normalized set of like packages and how all these things work, and the Fastly Anywhere just shifts of that. Oh, okay, we're actually deploying a cohesive whole of all of these things, and that makes a lot of the things we do internally so much easier. I mean, yeah, it has an external product thing, and that's exciting too, but for me, I'm more thinking about the infrastructure and the implications down the road of what we can do with it.
Which, if you haven't interacted with Jason before, this makes a ton of sense. Like, Jason basically single-handedly operated the entire network for the first several years of Fastly's existence. Like,
He's the real power behind the throne. For a while, when we deployed TLS, our TLS implementation was actually, it sent an email to Jason, and he deployed the surf view.
Yeah,
that went on for like
time ago.
That has a whole bad history of me not being able to get code reviews from Artur and doing it that way, but yeah. But that was a fun one. It's like we had an emergency customer come to us during that period. It's like they discovered that a very, very large site in China was hot linking some content on their site, and they had no way to talk to them to get it dealt with. So being TLS, all of your like, well, I can't just block IPs, I can't look at the URLs they're sending. All of the computational stuff happens when the connection is established. So it's like, help, we need to get this rolled out quickly, or when China wakes up in the morning, we're toast. So it was great to actually get them, and they're still a customer today.
Now, traffic has grown so much. You know, everyone talks about all these data centers using all this power, and you know, the internet has grown by leaps and bounds. And yet, there's a little bit of a backlash around sustainability. You know, and the fact that in many respects these are not that sustainable. But what are we doing about sustainability, and how are we helping with all of that?
You want me to start? Like,
Go ahead.
Thanks for that question. It's like it's almost like I planted it. So we're actually like, this is one of the things we've been trying to do, is try to make things better for everybody. Like, we try and make a better place for the internet, a better place, and part of that is being sustainable. Now, on the one hand, we're running in giant data centers, but we're trying to offset that with programs of like carbon offsets, which are now sort of a stopgap solution, but we're also, I think we're already at the point where all our e-waste is recycled. So in our data centers, we're sort of working on ways of using lower power, all kinds of different things. We're working with various different technologies that will sort of not just carbon offsets or anything like that. So we're working really hard, and part of what came out of that was the sustainability dashboard that Todd demoed earlier, and which is coming. And what we're trying to do, in the same way that we what we're, sort of we deploy IPv6 or TLS 1.3 or QUIC or HV3 or whatever, so that you don't have to. What we're hoping is, but by us doing this, that'll make it easier for you to be more sustainable.
One of the subtler aspects to this is for me is I focus on our storage technology, and the move from spinning Rust many years ago to SSDs had an interesting bit to it in that we started having to think of our storage as disposable. These things are consumable. These things run out of cycles over time. When we built our original storage engine that runs inside of Varnish, we were focusing on not actually rewriting data, being as good to the device as we possibly could. We were doing it for performance reasons at the time, but we later discovered that meant we didn't actually use up all the write cycles in our devices. So for the entire life of our machine as it exists in the fleet, we're not replacing the drives. They survive through 5+ years of writes. It's been a pretty major thing for our evolution of the platform over time, is that we could just keep shipping the hardware around and use it through its full life instead of trying to go out and replace all these drives all the time. I mean, we still do, things happen, but it was something we were able to just optimize that part of our stack in a unique way.
We're accidentally good people.
Well, I guess the architecture as such, caching as a principle is part of the sustainability as well, right? Because if everything went back to the origin every time, every user was reaching into the origin, that used a lot more of the total resources than if it's all pushed to the outside, right?
Our original implementation was in Wikia, which was a heavily read-only, heavily read site. So we used to think of it as the 90-9-1 rule. 90% of the people just read, 9% contribute occasionally, and then you had your power users. So for our CPU costs of actually running the sites that run on PHP using MediaWiki, it's not fast. If we didn't, the caching infrastructure, the instant purging came out of all of that, that was the only way to make the company actually financially viable, was to not go all the way back to our origins and use all that CPU. To the point where we had an entire separate hot data center, and I was working on the search crawler at the time, and we needed to re-index our entire site. It took a week of CPU time for a dedicated data center that could run the entire site just to crawl all of our pages internally.
Now, last question, I guess, because we're a little short on time, and I think we stand between the group and Todd and Brett, and then drinks. So, dangerous place to be. Kind of why now? It seems like suddenly we've made CDN kind of exciting again, and the edge has become exciting. Why now? What is it about now?
So secretly, we always knew we wanted to do this. So when we all knew each other. We'd all worked together, we'd all knew each other, and we were all really, really bitter about the entire CDN business. But I don't think any of us would have just started another CDN. When we got together and we started talking about this in the early days, it was okay, well, if you're gonna cache dynamic content, you wanna be able to run code. And then it became really quickly well, if you're gonna run some code, why don't you run as much code on the edge as possible? Isn't that a better way? And we're kind of writing this out. We're writing on the windows of mine and Arthur's apartment, and bits of paper, stuff like that. And so we always knew we wanted to run an edge compute network. But even back then, and this was written into the original business plan, along with we wanted to have our own customer conference and sponsor an F1 team and go public. We did all three of those things. So you can tell where my bias came into that one. But we always wanted to run an edge compute network, but written right into the business plan was, we don't think the market's going to be there for 10 years. So we'll start with CDN, we'll make CDN better, and then in 10 years' time, we're going to be able to do edge computing. I think that's what got you excited.
And additionally, in order to make edge computing, I think really viable, you kind of need a CDN-like network to start with, right? But yeah, this was built in since the very beginning. Even in the earliest days, I was attempting to embed Ruby inside of Varnish, and then I tried to embed Lua inside of Varnish, and neither of those are both terrible ideas. It worked, but it did not work well. And so I think the other reason that it has become big is because we finally found the technology that we needed in order to make it work, which was, from my perspective, WebAssembly. I remember Artur sent me a link. He was like, "Hey, look at this thing." It was way pre 1.0, and I was like, "Uh-oh, I think I'm excited about this," and so went off and started building a compiler.
And is it also just that people's attention spans have gotten shorter, and therefore the performance of the CDN matters, because competitively it seems like performance is a major issue more than it's ever been.
Yeah. I don't know if it's attention spans.
Okay.
I say squirrel. But it just gives you that flexibility. Like, the more performance you have, it gives you that flexibility to go and do other stuff. And it's also, like, weirdly, the more performant we are, the cheaper it is for us. Like, if it takes us 10 milliseconds to go and process somebody's code, then we can only do 100 people in a second on a given CPU. If we can do it in 1 millisecond, that means we can do 1,000 people. So on the same hardware, we can do 1,000 people, which means we can do it cheaper. And so that's cheaper for our customers. So there's this like weird virtuous cycle. So
I'd also argue it's like the world is getting smaller in a lot of ways, right? Like, you kind of expect your application to work fast regardless of where you are in the world.
yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, everyone, these are the founders of Fastly, 12.5 years on, and what a ride. A fantastic position for the company right now, fantastic customers. Thanks for sharing your insights. You'll be around for drinks if anyone wants to drill down a bit.